One of the biggest problems in the church is that we're always looking for leaders instead of figuring out how to develop leaders. In fact, in Barna's 2022 State of the Church report, they said that 1 in 4 U.S. pastors selects a lack of leadership in training and development as a major concern facing their church today. And the reality is, because we're always looking for people that we feel like are already leaders, instead of asking ourselves the question, how could we develop leadership in someone? And so in today's Missionary Insight, I want to talk to you about 3 simple ways you can start moving from looking for leaders to start developing leaders within your church and within your mission context. And so the first principle is this: look for the people that God already has in front of you. Look at all those people that God's placed in front of you. Sure, some of them might not be preachers or teachers right now, or necessarily ministry leaders or even everyday missionaries, but the reality is, just because they aren't today doesn't mean they couldn't be tomorrow. And if you start looking at the people in front of you, what you begin to realize is there's a lot more potential there than you ever thought of before. So the first principle is simply look at who God has in front of you. Point 2, make time for development. See, one of the problems with ministry is running ministry. And we can sometimes, as ministry leaders, feel like we're running around like chickens with our heads cut off, trying to keep all the plates of ministry spinning. Like my professors used to say in seminary, remember, Sunday's always coming. But the reality is, sometimes running the programs of ministry can be a distraction to developing people for ministry. And so the second most important principle is simply this: you have to make time in your schedule for development. Now, you can't wipe your slate clean and only do development in a church. That wouldn't be realistic, but you could figure out how to take just 20% of your time in your ministry schedule for developing people, developing leaders, whether they're everyday missionary leaders or whether they're leaders for within your church. But the more you spend time developing leaders, the more leaders you're going to find you have, but you have to take time for development. And then third, and most importantly, you need to have a plan for development. Whether you're talking about ministry areas that you're trying to fill, or whether you're talking about raising up everyday missionaries within your church to reach your community, you have to have a plan for development. And oftentimes the people are there and even the time in our schedule is there, but we haven't thought through what our plan is going to be to intentionally develop people. And so what I want to tell you is this: it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be as simple as just making regular time in your schedule for a group of potential leaders to sit down and go through a resource. If you're talking about raising up everyday missionaries, you could walk through a book like Joining Jesus and just take some time every week to discuss it and then to go out and try those things. You could walk through the missionary pathway together and take an opportunity to go through an intentional training program that will help you train your people in how to share the gospel and make disciples in the places they live, work, learn, or play. Or you could even do something more robust than that, and you could develop an entire leadership pipeline for your church. Whatever you do, whether you pick a book to study together, you do a missionary pathway, or you develop an entire leadership pipeline for your church, the key is being intentional. If you have an intentional plan, if you make time to develop leaders, and if you start looking at the people that are already in front of you, what you're going to find is you will move from looking for leaders to developing leaders within your church. And when you make that move, what you're going to find is you will always have the leaders you need to do the ministry God's calling you to do. Hey, I hope this was helpful. If it was helpful for you, go ahead and click like and subscribe to this YouTube channel, and then take an opportunity to share it out with somebody else that you think would find this helpful and beneficial. And of course, you can subscribe by clicking the link below to get these right to your email inbox every single week. So till next week, it was a joy hanging out with you right here on the Missionary Pathway Mission Insights series.